Welcome to Eternal Night. Tonight, we journey into the depths of one of the most haunting tragedies in modern history, a story of faith, control, and the fatal power of belief. This is the story of Jonestown. It all started with a man named Jim Jones. Born in rural Indiana in 1931, Jones was fascinated by religion and power from a young age. By the time he was in his 20s, he was on the streets, preaching a message of radical equality. In the divided America of the 1950s and 60s, he spoke of racial harmony, unity, and compassion. He drew in people who were desperate for change, for justice, for a sense of purpose. He called his movement the People's Temple. But Jones wasn't just selling faith. He was offering something far more powerful: belonging. He created a family for the lost, the broken, and the hopeful. And for thousands, that was more than enough. They sold their homes, handed over their life savings, and followed him without question. To the outside world, the People's Temple looked like a progressive, integrated church fighting for a better world. But inside, a darker reality was taking shape. Jones's control became absolute. He demanded unwavering loyalty. To question him was to commit an act of betrayal. He was no longer just a preacher, he was their savior. By the mid-1970s, the pressure was mounting. The media started asking tough questions, and former members began speaking out about abuse. Feeling cornered, Jones began spinning a new tale, a vision of a promised land, a socialist paradise far from the corruption of the United States. He found it deep in the remote jungles of Guyana, South America. He called it Jonestown. Hundreds of his followers packed up their lives and followed him into the unknown. They cleared dense jungle with their bare hands, built simple huts, and planted crops under a scorching sun. In the evenings, they gathered to sing songs of revolution and hope. On the surface, it looked like a dream come true, a self-sufficient utopia. But the dream was rapidly becoming a nightmare. Jonestown was a prison disguised as a paradise. The settlement was completely isolated, cut off from the world by miles of impenetrable rainforest. All letters going in or out were censored. Passports were confiscated upon arrival. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter, not to keep intruders out, but to keep the residents in. People worked grueling hours, from dawn until well past dusk, often on the brink of starvation. Those who stepped out of line faced public humiliation, beatings, or worse. And the man at the center of it all, Jim Jones, was falling apart. The charismatic preacher was now a paranoid, drug-addicted tyrant. His nightly speeches, broadcast over loudspeakers, became rambling, terrifying diatribes filled with conspiracies and enemies. He convinced his followers that the U.S. government was plotting to destroy their paradise, that CIA agents were hiding in the jungle, and that their only hope for survival was to remain united, ready to die for their cause. By 1978, disturbing stories of abuse and false imprisonment had reached the United States. Desperate families, who hadn't heard from their loved ones in months, demanded action. That November, a brave U.S. congressman named Leo Ryan decided to see the truth for himself. He flew to Guyana with a team of journalists and concerned relatives. When they arrived, Jones put on a show. He greeted them with music, dancing, and a feast. The community seemed happy, orderly, and peaceful. But as Ryan walked through the settlement, the facade began to crumble. People secretly slipped him notes, scraps of paper with desperate messages scrawled on them. "Please help us get out of Jonestown." The next day, as Ryan and his delegation prepared to leave with a small group of defectors, the situation exploded. Gunmen loyal to Jones ambushed them at a nearby airstrip. Chaos erupted. When the shooting stopped, Congressman Ryan and 4 others, including 3 journalists, were dead. Back in Jonestown, the news of the attack sent a shock wave of panic through the community. Jones gathered everyone in the central pavilion. He told them that their actions had sealed their fate. Soldiers would now descend on them, he claimed, to torture and kill their children. He presented them with a final, horrific solution. Recordings from that fateful night captured his chilling words. "We didn't commit suicide," he declared. "We committed an act of revolutionary death." A large vat of fruit punch was mixed with a lethal cocktail of cyanide and sedatives. The children were first. Syringes were used to force the poison down their throats as they cried for their mothers. Parents then followed, some willingly, others at gunpoint. Armed guards stood by, ensuring no one escaped their fate. A few tried to flee into the jungle, but most were caught or couldn't survive. By the time the sun set on November 18, 1978, more than 900 people lay dead. Jim Jones was found among them, dead from a gunshot wound to the head. It remains one of the largest mass losses of American civilian life in a single non-natural event. When the first rescuers finally reached the remote settlement days later, they were met with an eerie, gut-wrenching silence. They found a scene of unimaginable devastation. Rows upon rows of bodies lay side by side. Children's toys, musical instruments, and personal belongings were scattered across the grounds. And at the entrance, a painted sign still offered a haunting welcome: People's Temple Agricultural Project. Jonestown was supposed to be a sanctuary, a new Eden built on ideals of peace and equality. But it became a tomb, constructed from faith, fear, and the terrifying power of blind devotion. The few who survived would carry the scars for the rest of their lives, haunted by the loved ones they lost and the charismatic man who twisted their hope into absolute horror. Jim Jones promised to build heaven on earth. Instead, he created hell in the jungle. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the world isn't hate. It's belief without question. Thank you for joining us on Eternal Night. If you believe this story is important and needs to be remembered, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the cases that have shaped our world. Stay safe and always question.